In this episode, we finalize the wiring and fire it up for the first time. All right, guys, this is a computer for a 99 Subaru Legacy running a 2.2 engine in the Volkswagen bus. We've got a, this actual harness has been depinned and pared down to the bare minimum needed to run the bus. There are about eight or nine wires to hook up: vehicle speed sensor, cruise control, there's the tach wire, check engine light is CEL, and then AC switch positive. This one here is just battery positive, and got some relays here. I think those might be fuel pump, I'm not sure. I had a gentleman, I sent this out to a guy and he modified it for me. I do fabrication, I'm not an electrical guy. I can make it work, but this would have taken me hours. Also, there's a guy online on YouTube by the name of Bussaroo. You guys, if you're in the Volkswagen swap world, you might have saw some of his videos on how to, weed out all the old wires. He's got several videos on that. Here, back to it, we've got the 12 volt out for backup lights. We've got a brake switch. We've got 12 volt in for the backup lights again, and then the starter wire. And of course, those are connectors. This module here is for the computer to run the engine. And then this is the TCM, or transmission control module, which has been screwed right to the top of the computer, along with a code killer. And this is just a small fuse box. There's 4 fuses in there. Ignition, second one's fuel, next one's fan, and the battery one's already hooked up. So I just got to hook up the fan. The computer will tell this fan circuit when to turn on, go through a fan relay, the fuel pump, turn on here. I believe one of these is a fuel pump relay, and then the ignition. So fairly straightforward, but a big old harness. This is probably a good 1.5 inches yet in diameter. And I'm gonna mount this underneath the back seat on the Volkswagen. I don't really have a good spot in the engine bay to put it. I don't know, I could probably screw it to the firewall right here. But that's about the only place I have for it in here. But with just all the heat back here and the road debris, road grime, originally these are located right on the floor of the Subaru car. They're on the passenger side floor. I had one of the videos earlier in the series showed removing this computer and harness from the vehicle, and it's a full dash removal on that episode. You can watch that if you'd like. Here's a pic of the harness right after I pulled it out of the vehicle. There's a lot of extra wiring, a lot of extra, clips and things. There was 27 pounds that I put in a box to send out. After it was returned to me, there's about 7 or 8 pounds of wire harness. But let's get to mounting this hardware and then figuring out where each wire goes, kind of one at a time. So we're gonna grab it here and walk around. Kind of the plan here is move the battery from back in the engine bay. That went on the passenger side. The battery used to be back where the radiator is now located. I also bought this is a heater. This is called a marine heater. It's a 12 volt blower motor with a input for water. And I think that's 40,000 BTU. That fits right underneath the seat here. Another nice little spot for it. And there's a panel that'll cover everything up when we're done, the factory panel. And I'm gonna put the computer over in the corner here. And it kind of fits pretty nicely. Right, kind of put it where I think it's gonna go. I want it to be able to be accessible, obviously for the fuses. At a later date, if a guy needed to get to those fuses right under here, you just pop this panel off and run this. I'm just gonna somehow, bolt this down to the floor here, and then the panel can cover this up. Still accessible, can still get to the fuses right here. I might mount it with Velcro, I don't know. It's something easy I can flip up, and then these relays, I'll be able to mount that up here somewhere on the firewall. And then the large harness here, I'm going to bore a hole right here. I'll go back and check and make sure there's nothing right behind there. And this is about a 3-foot loom. It's fairly long, but I don't need that much length. Transmission control, those are the transmission connectors, and then there's a couple engine connectors and for the oxygen sensors. So that's kind of the lay of the land, getting into the video, and time to get to wiring. Looking at the wiring here in the engine bay, some things that are just to note. This is the rear, the downstream O2 sensor. It's still on the harness. I'm not using that. I'm only using one O2 sensor. That's the upstream. I don't care if I get a check engine light for that. Yeah, and most of the wiring we did from underneath. So I did have to take the mass airflow sensor wiring and extended that from this side over to the mass airflow sensor. I showed that. And then there's some extra wires I don't know if I'll be using. This is an old to the heat blower motor. This Volkswagen air-cooled motor had the blower motor back here that would assist in blowing air up front. I'll probably, I could use the wire for a heater, but I don't know, it's so far back here. I may just tape them off and abandon those. Then working on the inside here, showing what we've done. Got the battery here that'll be underneath the back seat area here. We got the battery. It's a negative going through. I've got a little bit of extra wire back there, and I put a little bit of oil on here just so they slide. I put some slack on this power wire, and if I need to pull this out, because the seat covers it to about here, I'll be able to put a strap down to hold this. I don't want anything contacting. I gotta get a protective cover over the top so I don't have these touching anything underneath the seat. And then I've got a ground here for the chassis, and I also got it in the back. I got an engine to a ground, and I'll show a picture of that. Yeah, this ignition wire going to the fuse, that's a keyed ignition. We actually used the Volkswagen positive off the coil. That was already underneath there, and that was a keyed power. And so we just ran that and tied that in. That was real easy. Didn't have to run any extra wires. So I will not be hooking up some of these until I have AC, and I'm not going to put the check engine light. I got a code reader right here. I can read OBD2. This is onboard diagnostics 2. So that'll be just hanging here. And I have a wireless O2 dongle that I can plug in here and run to an Autel computer. But just for checking diagnostics, that's easily accessible. That'll just probably be hanging out the side here. Somewhere down at the bottom I can get at it, or pop the side panel off to get to it. But yeah, I will be running a tack here shortly. So this tack wire, that's the signal wire for the tack on the Subaru motor. And then I did label these 2 relays. These are Subaru, came off the Subaru car. It's part of the whole package here that I retained when I stripped out of the car. That's for the fuel pump, and this one's for the fan relay, running these, those relays run through these fuses. So fairly easy to hook up. I appreciate the gentleman who did that for me. I got to ask him if I can shout out credits for that, because did a great job for me there. So that kind of sums up the wiring. Of course, there's going to be more wiring when I go to install the. It's not over till it's over. So I've got to do some more wiring up front here, wiring in interlock switches. You got to hit the brake before the shifter will move, and then there's a light to light up indication for evening driving. That'll be hooked up to the dash lights or the instrument lights for the shifter. And then I have ordered a gauge, tachometer gauge in here that has water temp and oil pressure. The Volkswagen was an air-cooled motor. It did not have a water temperature gauge, so I want to have coolant temp here up front here. So let's take a look at the wiring from down here. You know, these electric fans came with bullet connectors, so I just used bullet connectors. It's an easy service and easy to get at if I got any issues. We've got a ground here. Got to put a nut on it yet, but we've got a common ground for the fans. The fuel pump here, just quick positive, negative. That's this red wire ran up to the fuse. We got about 4 fuses up there on the ECM, and that's one of them right there. And then there's an alternator harness that's part of the Subaru, came off the Subaru, and off that harness there were a couple idiot lights that we got for the oil and alternator light. Yeah, then for the battery, I came in through the firewall here. We call it the firewall. That's underneath the seat, and that's the positive, and then the ground came in through another grommet up here. This grommet right here. And I sprayed a little lithium grease there just so they'd slide through back and forth. And if I, like this, they kind of fit tight, but if I want to slide the battery forward, I can pull. I got some slack up there. I'll probably wipe those off. Over on this side, this is where the hole that came through. It's a little bit ugly right now because the main harness is real clean, one big hole there. And I'm gonna, these are kind of just loosely zip tied to hold them together. And anywhere we ran a bunch of wires, I'm gonna run a small loom, as well as here, another loom to go over these to protect them, mainly just to keep everything clean and tidy looking underneath here. I'll run a plastic loom. I've got protective wire wrap here, this loom material. You know, it's a split loom, so you can open it up and run the wires. I got a bunch of that. There you go. All right, guys, I got my buddy Adam over here. He's a professional electrical engineer at Polaris. So he wired up my last hot rod and got him over here getting the Subaru engine wiring tied into the Volkswagen wiring. Got the electric fans hooked up. We're using hooked up some bullet connectors here, but we've got crimping some terminals, getting things all hooked up here. Climb up on the inside and show you what we've got started here. Got her up on the lift, so we just kind of climb up the ladder here. So far we're just running some wires here, and we're going to put everything into a loom, a wire loom here. Things are labeled, and we're hooking up. We got the battery, fan, fuel pump. Next is the ignition, keyed ignition. So yeah, and then after this is all hooked up for the vehicle, I'm going to wire in the heater unit right in this area. Hooking up the ignition, just about ready to hit the old crank button. All right, guys, Adam and I got it all wired up. We're about ready to give it the first crank. I set up the camera here. I put 5 gallons of gas in it, full of oil, ready to crank. Here we go. I'm gonna jump in, give it a crank. Now the fuel rail's empty. Here we go. Can't go anywhere, it doesn't have drive shaft on it, and I have no way to run the accelerator. Here's the fuel pump.
There's stuff.
Fuel pump. I'll cycling it a few times. Here it's cycling. What's that cycling?
Relays.
Yeah, great. Ready? Here we go. Cycle the key a couple times. The fuel rail is completely dry, and I have the top end apart, so
Yeah, is a fuel pump recycling?
All right, guys, we got a crank, but no fire. So first thing we're gonna do is check for spark, and I'm gonna check for fuel because I had this engine completely apart. All right, we eliminated trying to eliminate the problem here. I've got a can of starting fluid. I just pulled the intake off. We're just trying to see if, go ahead and crank it. Yeah, so it's a lack of fuel problem, guys. I don't know if I put a used fuel pump on it, and I can feel the pump running, but it's a good sign that we've got ignition. Everything worked on the first try except for the fuel pump. So we're going to diagnose why we're not getting any pressure here. It doesn't have a Schrader valve on this old engine, so we're going to have to maybe pull off the fuel line, see if we're getting any fuel coming out of here. If not, back to a different fuel pump.
Correct.
Looks like we got it wired correct.
Yep. Now, are we getting fuel from the tank?
Yep, that's a brand new, I put 5 gallons in. There's a filter here. That was all clean filter, an inline strainer filter that plunges in here, that counterbore a hole. So now this whole assembly can go in the gas tank. Obviously this is upside down. It'll be screwed up on the bottom of the gas tank. I mean, and this is sucking the fuel, so it should be, we either pull it off prior to the filter. That's a Subaru filter right here, installed up there. So maybe we pull the line off up top and see if it's pumping. All right, so pulled the fuel line off the fuel rail here, and got the line hanging right here. Let me get that hooked up to the gas tank here. I'm trying to work with one hand here. All right, go ahead and turn the key, please. I hear clicking and some ticking from the fuel pump, but nothing's flowing. This thing is, we got nothing coming out of it, so. All right, let's diagnose that pump. I got a spare pump right here, just in case. If we gotta go to this pump, we'll change them out. All right, got the light under here. We've got the fuel pump right here. I just pulled the line off, take the clamp off here. I got the forceps on it, clamp. We got great flow here, real good flow. So we'll put that back on. I don't think the pump's good, so we'll pull the pump. We verified positive, negative. It's running, but nothing's coming out the other side here. So next stage of diagnosis on the fuel pump, pulled off this side. It's dry. Nothing's been going through it. We're getting power and it's trying to run, but no fuel on this side either. So out comes the pump here. She just got a hose clamp and a piece of radiator hose on it. Take that one out. Here's a replacement pump. You had the positive going upward, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's farmer style right there. All right, we'll leave her a little loose. Perfect. All right. Get it all back.
Put your hose clamp on.
Where is that clamp? Right here, the big guy. Okay, that's one side. The other side, hose clamp. Got the port hold frame on the bus here. Kind of handy for routing wires and hoses. All right, tighten things up. We're good to go. This Ricky Bobby going on. Wrong size. I gotta get a screwdriver. Get the screwdriver on that one. All right, that's tight. That's tight. We just gotta pop the wires on. You wanna handle that?
Sure.
Tag team. My electrician's gonna handle the wiring. I do mechanical. I rotate the pump too high to get at that top nut? All right. All right, get those tight. I'm gonna take the clamp off, fuel line. All right, I'm gonna go up there. We can almost check power is getting here too, is on the pump as well. I believe it is, because I can feel it clicking. Yep. But here, I'll climb up there and I guess we just see if she starts. I'm only gonna run about three seconds if it starts.
Okay.
That sounded better.
Sounds way better.
Oh yeah. Well, was the fuel pump buzzing?
Yeah, I made noise. Alright, you want to make sure that...
Want me to crank?
Yeah.
Okay. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll just key on. Keys on there.
Yeah, we got no power right now.
How about when I crank? Huh?
Now it's running. Okay, now we're running.
It is now?
No, it did when you keyed on. Okay, it's running off.
No. Off. Key on.
Running off.
Yep.
Okay.
It runs for about 3 seconds.
Hold on, we got a massive fuel leak down here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hey, it would help if we connected that back to the motor when we...
Oh, yeah. Well, we purged the line. Okay. It took that long to get...
Yep.
We got... I had to fill that filter.
Yeah.
But that still shouldn't have taken that long. Something's goofy there. Was it spraying pretty good or no?
Yeah, not a lot, it just started draining on me.
Well, rookies. It took that long to purge.
Well, the fuel pump was running for like a second to key on. But while you're cranking, it should be running, so.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah, give her a whirl.
I'm gonna key on and key off a few times. 2, 3.
It's alive! It's alive!
He's a runner! Yes! It's awesome. We just had to fill the fuel filter. All right. We got to do a little high five, guys. Woo! We got it going. It's a good runner, guys. She's a runner. I got to put coolant in it. And before I put coolant in it, I've got a fitting for a coolant sensor that I've ordered. And so, yeah, but we know it runs, it idles. All right, how cool is that? We got the first fire up of the Subaru engine in the old 74 Volkswagen bus. That was a lot of hard work, a few episodes. What are we, episode 10, 11, to get this far. Finally got it wired up with the help from my buddy Adam. Thanks, Adam, for coming over and helping me out. All right, guys, just for fun, let's fire this baby up. It's the next day after we got her running. I'm gonna turn the key. You can hear that fuel pump cycle. All right. She just fires right up. Now, I don't have any coolant in it, so I'm not gonna run it very long. That's great. I mean, it is rock steady. Perfect. Well, it's a runner, guys. So that's pretty cool. I can't really drive it yet. Got a few more things to do. We got to hook up the throttle cable. We got to hook up the shifter cable, gauges, put coolant in it, and a few other, tidy up the wiring yet. So there'll be more episodes, guys. Follow along. Appreciate it so far. Have a great day.